Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secure Team, and today I'd like to talk about one of the most mysterious and yet seldomly spoken about objects in the entire solar system. Something that is so extremely close to planet Earth and yet feels so far away due to the almost total lack of interest in its existence despite the number of strange phenomena surrounding it. That object, or planet rather, I'm talking about is of course planet Venus. And so you may be asking yourself, well, what is so special about planet Venus? And before we go any further and we get into the nitty-gritty of a lot of the strangeness surrounding this planet and why I for years have been of the opinion that NASA and the other space agencies around the world are deliberately being very hush-hush about this planet, let's go over some quick facts about Venus that maybe you guys didn't know. The first of which is that Venus is the second planet from the Sun and is the closest body to planet Earth. It's even sometimes called Earth's sister because the size of both Venus and Earth are very similar, with only around a 500-mile difference in the diameter between the two. And like planet Earth, both have a central core, a molten mantle, and a crust, although Venus has no moons or rings. It's also said that billions of years ago, the climate of Venus was very similar to that of Earth, and once possessed large amounts of water or oceans, and may very well have been teeming with life. Well, that is, in fact, until Venus got caught up in an extreme runaway greenhouse effect, where these oceans then boiled off, leaving Venus now known as the hottest planet in the entire solar system, with an average surface temperature of around 863 degrees Fahrenheit. Or in other words, hell on Earth, if you could ever imagine it hot enough to melt lead. It's also the second brightest natural object in the sky, and many of you probably notice it in the night sky and even the daytime on a daily basis. And so this is Venus today. Its smoldering hot surface covered in an atmosphere of sulfuric acid-laced clouds with wind speeds up to 200 miles per hour, and what the space agencies would have you believe is a totally inhospitable candidate for life, or that is what they want you to think. And so the photographs you're seeing here were of the first, captured of its surface in 1982 by the Soviets' Venera 3 spacecraft, which landed, snapped a couple photos, and within 2 hours melted under the intense heat. And since then, almost all has gone quiet in terms of interest surrounding this mysterious planet. For years, no one spoke about it, there were no missions to it, which is actually surprising, seeing as that this planet is the closest to ours. And yet without fail, our attention is always turned away from planet Venus towards other bodies in the solar system much further away. That was at least until 2010, where once again, another country besides the United States decided to send another probe to Venus, this time the Japanese, and their probe, known as the Akatsuki, which after 5 years of traveling, reached the planet in 2015 and began sending back images, and this is where the strangeness started. Before even having reached the planet, a couple of photographs were taken as the probe deployed one of its solar sails. And as it did that, something very mysterious had been captured sitting in the darkness of space. An unidentified object that some have said may have been a probe of another kind, sent to monitor the Japanese mission. In early 2016, some of the first photographs of the planet were beamed back to Earth, revealing not only the planet's chaotic atmosphere, but something even more mysterious and that has plagued scientists for years since. And that was in a photograph of the planet that they snapped in infrared and ultraviolet light, which revealed something truly massive, lingering and sitting completely static in Venus's upper atmosphere. That, of course, is this massive bow-shaped object, bending and curving down from one top of the planet to the other, in what has been described as a huge mystery wave that scientists simply couldn't account for. Scientists were baffled because whatever the object was, not only was it extremely massive, but as to just how it was sitting so still, where usually clouds in that particular region move at around 328 feet per second. Whereas this object sat stationary compared and in despite of the planet's rotation. So then the scientists thought, well, it could be something called a gravity wave, And if you don't know, well, gravity waves are just like they sound. They happen here on Earth, in fact, as you're seeing from this photograph here. And they're basically generated when massive objects, usually such as pairs of black holes or something of that nature, accelerate through space and time. But they can also occur on planets like Earth and are, I guess, what you would call ripples in the fabric, in the gravity around Earth. But they're often much smaller, as you're seeing on planet Earth here, and they're very short-lived, not lasting usually for more than a few minutes. And that created a big problem for those looking at this giant object, seemingly locked into place above Venus. If it was a gravity wave, it was one with which the likes we had never seen before. And furthermore, it wasn't moving, it wasn't dissipating. And soon, theories began to arise that it was something else entirely. Something that was extremely large, but that could only be seen in the infrared spectrum. Something that we can't see with our naked eye. And so as the photographs continued coming in, something else was discovered. But at that time, it was only a theory, and it links directly to this new evidence we want to talk about today. And that relates to one particular photograph, giving us a beautiful shot of these fast-moving, chaotic, and extremely poisonous clouds circulating around planet Venus. And more to the point, something that was discovered within said clouds. And that was the mysterious dark streaks seen laced throughout. Strange dark spots, which later told scientists that Venus may not in fact be the barren and devoid of life planet that NASA and most other space agencies would have us believe. And that these strange dark spots may have been the very first sign that although there may not have been life down on the smoldering surface, but that located some 35 miles up into the atmosphere, there may very well be areas teeming with life. And at the very least, from the data we have now, billions and billions of light-absorbing bacteria that are completely resistant to the sulfuric acid in the atmosphere. And that in fact, it may be this bacteria itself that is creating said sulfuric acid, as one scientist on the job was stated as saying, quote, "On Earth, we know that life can thrive in very acidic conditions. It can feed on carbon dioxide and produce sulfuric acid. Similarly, harsh conditions might be able to sustain life amongst the clouds of Venus, something that could be very similar to the way algae thrives on the lakes of Earth." Now again, the idea that these black spots here on Venus are nothing more than bacteria is just a theory. And that whatever is filling up the Venusian atmosphere may be something much more advanced, something that adapted to the atmosphere over millions of years. And what does it have to do with this massive wave seen sitting static over the planet? And is this some sort of secret structure that we know for a fact scientists cannot explain? Now, if you followed the channel for any extended period of time, you'll know that we've also done analysis of some of the surface features of planet Venus. Various satellite photographs showing what appear to be artificial structures. For instance, here is a clip from a video that I posted a couple of years back, where discovered scattered amongst the volcano-laced surface was what appeared to be a solid, tall-standing, shadow-casting object that was in the shape of what many would say is a capital letter H. And so what was it? A base of some sort? Well, we don't know. The radical and chaotic surface temperatures and weather of planet Venus really mean nothing if there were an alien presence that had already adapted to it, and that thrived within it. And that's where scientists struggle, because what may be inhospitable for humans may be the total opposite for these other beings that we know exist throughout space. And likewise, while we've been waiting for more concrete photographs and data to come from planet Venus, we've also captured some other strange things since. For instance, from the SOHO satellites that currently snap photographs of both the Sun and other planets at one point in time. Just as Venus itself was passing by in view of the camera, a very mysterious cylinder-shaped object was captured passing by, and what some have said came from the blistering planet itself. And whatever the object was, it was only seen in one frame, which had to mean that it was moving very quickly, and the whereabouts of are completely unknown. And so as I was explaining at the beginning of the video, and many of you will probably notice this too, was that there has been, for years now, what I have called a blackout as it pertains to planet Venus. and our attention has always been placed in the opposite direction, whether it be with visiting moons of Saturn or Jupiter, and specifically planet Mars. However, it's kind of strange to think that studies show that Venus sustained a habitable climate with liquid oceans on its surface for as long as 2 billion years, which is much, much longer than it is believed to have occurred on planet Mars. And so is there a blackout when it comes to planet Venus? Why do we never hear about it? And is there a very good reason for that? And could it be that this mysterious planet, the closest planet that we have to planet Earth, has been and continues to be put at such a far distance and is virtually non-existent when it comes to space exploration today? And so my question is, what are they hiding on Venus? And will we ever get a solid answer? Well, until then, we can only speculate. But in the meantime, if you'd like to learn more and see some of our past videos on Venus, I will put the links to those down below, and you guys can tell me what you think. So with that, I want to thank you all for stopping by today. Be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay tuned because I've got much more in the works, and I will see you all back in just a bit. Stay safe, guys.